Happy Monday, June 27th to you. Excuse me where I clear my throat. Hopefully that won't be a problem the rest of this video. You can see my report today at dailyfantasy.com. Go to the forums and baseball forums, and my weather forecast will be at the top. There's 4 games I'm watching in terms of delays and postponements. None of these look like threatening at the moment, but they could be. We have a weak cold front going through the northeast and mid-Atlantic, and out ahead of that, that's going to cause some showers and thunderstorms. So the first game that we begin with that threat, and kind of a weird schedule where 1 afternoon game in Pittsburgh and then 10 evening games across the MLB slate, is Pittsburgh. So let's go down and see what it looks like. This is the noon simulated radar. The very back edge of the range should be pushing through the city at that time. They have a long time to wait this game out if they have to, so I'm not worried about a postponement here. And if there is a delay, it would most likely be either delayed start or very early in the game. And with the delayed start looking more likely to me, because there's the threat of rain at some point. Why don't they just wait it out, sort of? So that's that. I mean, I know a lot of slates won't even have this game as a potential option. So we'll go to the next game, which is going to see the same front coming their way, and this is in New York City, and that's this evening. The 7 p.m. radar, simulated radar, should look something like this. We have a main line, kind of disorganized, not overly impressive, kind of starved for moisture, but there is a front. There is going to be, in what meteorologists would say, some instability in the atmosphere. Just that the atmosphere it's running into isn't tremendously warm or humid, so this isn't a severe weather maker or anything like that. But there will be some showers and thunderstorms around tonight. Again, just by the look at the radar, to me, it doesn't look like a postponement threat. There's too many white areas in here. White areas are obviously where it's not raining. So if the New York City, if the Yankee Stadium were underneath the yellow cell, it will come in, it will pass. It really shouldn't be that huge of a deal. I don't see this yellow cell or this one up here in Northeast PA just getting over the stadium and sitting there and pouring. That would cause a postponement. I don't see that. I see the showers and thunderstorms kind of moving in, moving out. Not overly heavy, or shouldn't be overly heavy. You notice that there's only really 4 specific small dots that have yellow indicating heavier rain, and the chances of that on this coverage area is like less than 10% for sure. So low chance of postponement, low to moderate chance of an in-game delay, I think, and that's assuming this time is correct. And this far out, it may or may not be. Just by how weak this front is, slower may be the way to go. Same front is down a little bit further south in the nation's capital. This where it's a little bit more warm and humid here. Thus, we may have a little bit more juice to work with. We can see some heavier rain expected. That's why I think the threat for here, especially in terms of delay, is a little bit higher, though I have the postponement threat slightly higher as well. The reason why that is the line's a little bit steadier. The rain's heavier. I mean, the line's more organized, sort of. The rain's heavier. It should last a little bit longer. There's a higher chance of seeing rain in D.C. than in New York City. So all those variables come in to favor a slight higher chance of a postponement in D.C. And again, I'm not saying that the threat is high. I only have low to moderate. I do think they'll be able to play this game. But the risk there is higher, and that's the case right now. And last but not least, well, we have another one that I'll mention, but the last one I wrote up is Atlanta. We can see this is around the simulated scheduled start time of 7 p.m. We have a huge, at least a fairly large area of thunderstorms off to Atlanta's west. Close enough that it's at least worrisome, but everything I see has consistently shown that the best atmospheric forcing is back to the west and northwest over here, and that's why everything's out there. But we can see there's a few renegade cells out ahead of that main line, and this line is very slowly sinking southeast. So again, postponement risk looks low. There could be a low to moderate chance of delay. Probably getting higher the later we're going in the game, but you can't rule it out right away. So those are the 4 games I keeping a close eye on for you. I mentioned the fifth game, and the fifth game is at Coors. There's a small chance of rain. It almost seems like every game in Coors has a small risk of rain, and that's because I've written time and again in the write-up that showers and thunderstorms form in the Rocky Mountains. They drift off the mountains, but as they drift, they weaken, and a lot of times they don't impact Denver at all. So, and the models just seem to have do a bad job of picking that up. That they always show the over bias for rain in Denver. So even though it shows some rain in Denver, you can downplay that. You can't ignore, but you can downplay, and I'll continue to keep an eye on it. Again, I have it as a 10% rain chance, 5% delay, 2% postponement. Obviously, any game in Coors, we're going to keep our close eye on as meteorologists and DFS players, well, as both as I am. But it's not something that I'm overly worried about. I always like to point out good hitting environments. By far the best one is in Colorado. It's still warm, and the wind is kind of weird. It's blowing. I think this is the game where it's shifting. Yeah, it's blowing in from right and then out to left at 10 to 20 miles per hour. So it goes from northeast to southeast. So just something to keep an eye on. The exact timing of this wind shift is pretty critical. But it's going to be tough to do. It's certainly everything I saw showed that early in the evening the wind is northeast and later in the evening it's southeast. So just keep an eye on that. I will as well as we go through the day. Other good hitting environments. It's warm with a wind blowing out in Pittsburgh. Warm in New York City. Warm and relatively humid in Washington with a wind blowing out. Warm in Cincinnati. And the roof should be on in Arizona, but that doesn't stop that place from being a good hitter's park, so something to keep an eye on. And the parks that favor the pitcher, Tampa Bay. Every time they play in Tampa Bay, that favors the pitcher just because of the dome stadium and how the stadium's set up. And then I think the two parks in LA are in California, are favoring the pitchers today. Very chilly in San Francisco, even though there's a strong wind blowing out to right center. We've talked about in the write-ups how the park kind of mitigates that strong wind blowing out, but something to keep in mind. And then Angel Stadium, though it's a little bit warmer and humid than normal, it's still a pitcher's ballpark, and it's not insanely warm or humid by any stretch of the imagination. Well, anyways, I've gone probably a little bit over time. I will continue to update. Look for me at DF Cafe on Twitter, Daily Fantasy Cafe in the forums, and MLB DFS Weather.com will redirect you to that forum automatically. So if you ever have any question about where my reports are, just look for that. And there's some important news that starting tomorrow that the MLB DFS Weather.com should be updated to a brand new look, and it should make a little bit more user friendly for both me and for you to look at. So I'm looking forward to that, and hopefully you are as well. Have a good day. Thanks.